Welcome to Bitches in Season, a podcast for everyone who loves dogs,
all things agility,
and some spicy tea.
I'm Lizzie.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Lindsay.
Bitches in Season.
Everybody.
Hi.
Hey.
We're here for episode 3.
We're
and
back.
Episode 3 is titled The Name of Our Podcast. It's Bitches in Season.
We are going to talk about it.
We're going to do a hot take episode, and it's kind of like when you watch a TV show or a movie and they like say the title in the show or in the movie, you're like, that's it. That's what this is about.
That's it. Yeah.
That's this episode. We're going to talk about the hot controversies surrounding Bitches in Season and some updates. But, let's just chit chat. What's going on in our lives these days?
Yeah. So you guys were at the One TDC Invitational in Chicago.
Yeah, the
for
UKI.
UKI.
Yeah.
You guys want to tell me how well you did?
Well, how well we did.
How well did we do?
We didn't do that well, to be fair. That doesn't make it less fun.
Yeah.
It was still one of my favorite events of last year, and I think it was still really fun this year. I think I'm in a bit of a rut personally in like having had a really, really good 2024. And
like, what will top that? That's a hard year to top.
Yeah. So I'm managing my expectations, but trying to deal with, what it's like to have ups and downs. So I think we had like 4 E's and 4 with like either clean or fault. So, it's
That's
ups
good.
and downs.
Yeah.
It's an emotional roller coaster, honestly. And
Agility is.
yeah. I personally thought the courses were a lot harder than they were last year and harder than the U.S. Open courses this year.
Yeah. I've heard that from a lot of people actually that
I agree.
talked to.
100%.
Well, it was Jan, so the Jan courses were pretty challenging. I've struggled on his courses in the past, like at the Southeast Cup when he judged there. But Rachel, what was it like for you?
Yeah, so it was my first time going. We went in after being off for a month.
Why were you off for a month?
You want
I
to
was
share?
rehabbing a shoulder injury for Chessie, unfortunately. Got the all clear to go back the week of, so we decided to still attend. And I am really glad that I went. We had a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of people, of course, hang out with you, Lindsay. We shared an Airbnb together, which was super fun. We didn't do as well as I hoped we would. We ate a lot. I forgot a lot of courses.
Do you think it was like mentally you were just struggling to be back on
Yes,
those?
especially going back
you
to
hadn't-
such a big event. It wasn't just a local trial. So the courses they had a lot of technical.
Yeah, they were kind of relentless. It was like skill after skill after skill. Like there were at least 2 times that I E'd at like 16 or obstacle 18, which is such a heartbreaker because you fought through like a really hard course and then couldn't pull it together at the end. That was rough.
I mean, we did as well as we could have.
You did have some really nice runs.
I thought
We
Some
did,
really great
yes.
moments.
We had a lot of wins.
Chessie looked great.
She looked amazing. And I think that's the most important part, that she looked so great. She had so much fun. Yeah. And I can't wait to go back next year. Hopefully not coming off of an injury, but I can't wait. Yeah. I definitely also agree with Lindsay that the courses were harder than the U.S. Open courses.
Pretty relentless.
So,
But in a fun way. They were like rewarding challenges. Like even my E's didn't feel horrible. There were parts that I was proud of. And that's kind of a takeaway I'm constantly learning is like, how can I still have fun when things go wrong? Because at the end of the day, I want it to be fun all the time. And that's what I'm doing it with my dog, to have fun and hang out with my friends. So.
Exactly. And it was all that and more. So.
Yeah. So let's get into it. The hot topic of Bitches in Season, I feel like for years, I've seen debates rage on Facebook, people for it, people against it, petitions. And the big news is that ISC is allowing it starting this May of 2025.
And that's a big thing because AKC does not allow Bitches in Season to run in regular AKC trials.
For everything, AKC has been against it.
Well, they allow it in confirmation.
Well, yes,
So-
but that is about the only sport that they do allow it in.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know.
So, like we said, there's been petitions about this in the past, and maybe it's fair to say that these petitions have brought this issue to the AKC leadership to say that ISC events should allow Bitches in Season. Now, I will say one exception to what you said of them not being allowed is that they've always been allowed at tryouts for international teams. So at EO tryouts and at AWC tryouts, the Bitches in Season have always been allowed to run. But as recently as last April actually's tryouts was when they didn't make Bitches in Season run last in running order.
So they were allowed to run in their running order.
Right. And the big argument for that was that at AWC or at international events like FCI International events, the bitches in season run in regular order along with everyone else. And there's a huge advantage to running last, right?
Yeah, you get to watch everybody run. You get to see where things went wrong, where things went right. Oh, that handling move did not work for 90% of the people. So
that's
do
why the run orders are reverse seated when it comes down to the last runs. Right. So that's why the rounds at tryouts and big events are reverse seated if there's a finals, because you get to watch everyone else.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about like what organizations in agility allow bitches in season to run and what other sports allow bitches in season to participate.
Yeah. So I think right now, as far as agility goes, UKI allows it. USDAA allows bitches in season to run. I know with USDAA, they have to wear panties. And I think UKI, they have to be on a mat.
Well, I think it's up to the club.
Okay.
Yeah, in the rule book, it does say for UKI, it's up to the club. So it has to be in the premium and
what the policy
is. So they can make their own policies.
Yeah. And then some other sports that do allow it are barn hunt. And then I just recently got into nosework, and an organization that does allow it is the NACSW, allows bitches in season to run as well.
I think I was reading that herding does allow it. I wonder if it's AKC herding that does allow it.
That's interesting. I don't know a lot about herding.
I wish I knew more. Yeah, but I wonder, I know there's some different organizations, like there's the Border Collie, the ABCA, that is not associated with AKC, and then there's also ASCA that's not associated with AKC, so I wonder if they do allow them to run or not.
And CPE Agility does not allow bitches in season to run at all, so that's another one. And, you know, it raises a lot of topics for people, like should you be able to get a refund if your bitch comes into season when you've already entered an event? And, you know, do you have to have a vet paperwork to show that? And then what does it cost to get vet paperwork to demonstrate evidence?
And then some vets even charge for a letter.
Exactly.
Well, because you have to pay an exam fee and a letter, and then are you even getting refunded at all at that point? Unless you have a vet in the family, I guess.
Yeah.
And, you know, then there's the other factor of like, is it fair that intact female dogs could potentially have to be sitting out of events for over 3 weeks on an unpredictable schedule, but usually twice a year?
And then, I mean, we'll bring up the topic of like, there's a lot of breeders out there who do not title their bitches as much as their males or the stud dogs are titled, because they keep them intact because they're breeding them, and then they don't have as many titles as their male dogs.
Yeah, I mean, you see the argument made a lot that the AKC is a purebred dog club, and how do you continue to produce, you know, and structurally sound, well-bred dogs that can compete in these sports? That can
be proven.
Yeah, that
exactly.
Proven.
And not just proven in conformation, proven in sports as well, which is, I think, for me personally, I think is important to see a breeder having dogs
titled on both ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
In sports and in confo.
And I think a big push that people will probably continue to make for AKC is people who have to pull from big events because their bitch came into season. Like, imagine if you had a really popular breed like Border Collie, Sheltie, you know, Golden, and you're trying to qualify for invitationals. Like, how many cues and how much money and how many weekends are you spending getting qualified into the top 5?
Yeah. I thought you meant the UKI Invitational, and I was like, what?
No, sorry, AKC invitationals. That takes a lot of trialing.
So much trialing.
What if you had to pull because
your bitch is in season?
Yeah.
I experienced it once with Chessie. We were actually signed up for a Fast Cat trial, and she came into season, and I had to pull from it.
That's another sport they don't let you do it.
Yeah, which was my experience, but I kept her intact until she was around 2 years old.
Right.
So we did experience a couple heats, and yeah, it's crazy. You don't think about it until you have to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And another big one is NAC as well.
Right.
I just saw that going around on Facebook. You know, you have to qualify, and you have to trial, and you have to get all your mock points and those double Qs, and then the event comes rolling around, and your bitch comes in the season.
Not to mention, all the travel, the hotels, driving,
all the
planning
plans ahead that you have to make.
Yeah. What if you booked an Airbnb
posters
that you can't get refunded for?
So that's definitely a lot of reasons to, you know, that people argue to consider allowing it. But it is a big deal that starting May 1st of 2025, the ISC is going to allow it. And some of the stipulations are that they have to decide, it's going to be up to the club's discretion of whether they're going to run at the end of the run order, whether they're going to run on a mat or wear panties. So that those things are actually going to be determined by the club themselves. And then the clubs can also establish rules for crating areas and potty areas and anything else that they want people to follow.
Right.
How do you guys feel about that with like different crating areas and potty areas for bitches in season?
I mean, so I do confirmation, obviously, and I have been at 2 shows now where Cassian been around bitches in season. And the first one that I was at, he did not make it to the best of breed ring, but the second one, he ended up taking winners, and so we ended up going into the best of breed ring, and he was in the best of breed ring with a bitch in season. And you know, there were a lot of people making comments, and like the dogs were obviously licking the floor, but at the end of the day, your dog still has to perform well. And we know
What were the comments?
Oh, just like, stay away from that dog, or like, don't let your dog near that dog. That dog is in season. And
But like in a snotty way, or like?
yeah, I think people get annoyed because there was somebody and their dog was clearly like over the edge, like
Losing its mind.
oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah, you know, it's allowed, so why shouldn't they be there?
Yeah. I mean, I think we were like kind of scouring some old Facebook posts to see what are the arguments people make against it. And I guess, you know, obviously the kind of like, if they're in standing heat, their males are going to be driven crazy. They won't be able to focus. And
And then there's like the people who are like, my dog is a stud dog, and they know their
Right,
job to
right.
be around a bitch in
instinct,
season
it's
is
hormones. Yeah.
to, you know, breed them. Like,
Right. And people say no amount of training can overcome that instinct, which I think is an interesting argument because vision's intact. And we've been at UKI and USDA trials running with bitches in season in the
Yeah.
regular running order. And I think he's certainly like in tune to it. But at the end of the day, he knows his job when it's agility time.
Right. And have you ever trained it? Have you ever like gotten a bitches in season panties or like something that was marked? Like, did you ever do that?
No.
I
Yeah.
did for Cassian.
did?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there was somebody in our class when Cassie was, I think he was well over 6 months. I think he was closer to a year. And he was losing his mind and kept running up to the gate. And we had no idea why. He had never done this before. And then we realized that there was a bitch in season. So she actually gave me the liner from the dog's panties. And I brought it back to the next class, and we kind of just like kept it on the table and just had it there so he could like still
That's smart.
smell it. And he didn't do it when it was on the table. So I think there's definitely different smells and,
Yeah.
you know, scents. But
For sure.
I think like it's also, he was young, but I think it's something like you would need to learn how to get over that. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
let
It's almost like any other thing
Oh,
that you
yeah.
need to teach them to ignore when
Right.
you want your dog to choose you and work with you in an agility ring.
right. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel like people get really defensive about it. We were looking at some old comments and someone was like, as long as you're okay with my dog mating to your dogs, I'll be fine with it. And it's like,
That's ridiculous.
so excessive. Or people saying, oh, you know, people already aren't respectful and they're going to stand there ringside with their bitch in season, distracting the other dogs, just like they stand there and let their high drive dogs stare dogs down and lose it. It's like the drama is high as always when
As
people are
always.
arguing about
Yeah.
this.
People
Yeah.
were also talking about like the blood getting on the equipment and who's disinfecting that
Oh,
after
it's gonna
every
leak and
run.
I think it's more evidence that we should get rid of the table altogether, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
I could see, you know, if your dog sits or lies down on the table, and I misspoke actually. In ISC, they can't run in panties at all. Not that
Oh.
there's a table
I
in
think
ISC,
in
but
USDAA they have to run in panties, and I
think
think
so.
UKI
you can decide.
you can decide if you want your dog to.
I think it's a club's decision.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, you know, there's so many interesting reasons. Like we were reading like a barn hunt judge said that they had to stop a run when the panties started leaking, which is crazy because I never
crazy.
experienced that.
I dealt with a dog in heat before, and there was none of that.
Like
We barely
leaking.
noticed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but you know, like you said, like every dog's different. Like Cassian
True.
had to be trained, and
Yeah.
Vision.
I mean,
just
wouldn't
kinda
you just
got
be able
over
to
it.
like take the hay out of that hay bale and throw it in the trash? Like,
I don't know.
come on.
But you know, I guess people do have a an argument that there's not opportunities for them to train around it. Like,
Which
it was
is
nice that
fair.
you had that chance in your class.
Yeah.
But without that opportunity, what if that had happened at your first trial and he was just losing it? Like,
I
that
probably would have been a little upset if we're being honest.
it would put you at a bit of a disadvantage, but it's
Yeah.
like, well, then just find a way to
Yeah.
work on it like anything else.
There was another argument that people were stating if bitches in season, if allowed to wear panties, then boys should be allowed to run in belly bands, which
Right.
I thought was funny because if the
Not really
boys
that equivalent.
are going to smell that, they're going to mark, which is
Yeah.
that's something you need to teach your dog. That's another training thing.
Yeah. And we saw other comments because, people are always debating, like, what are the rules of dogs, like, engaging with each other? Or what if an intact male leaps over the fencing and goes after someone?
What
they
are the
going
consequences
to have
going to be
a
for
bench
that?
committee about that? And what if a bitch in season, like, corrects another male for getting too
Right.
close to her? Is that going to be seen as aggression? So I'm always intrigued to see what are the people's opinions. Obviously, we are all in agreement that they should be allowed because
Yeah.
how
Yes.
else are we going to get great dogs if we don't allow the ones that produce them to be proven? Yeah, I think that this topic is going to continue to bubble up,
Evolve. Yeah.
be discussed, and we've made a lot of progress. I think it's a huge deal that ISC is going to allow it, obviously, as something that is important for people who are trying to qualify for tryouts. But, it'd be interesting to know if AKC continues down that road with local trials,
And other sports. Yeah.
and see how it goes. Honestly, I've never had a problem with my dogs, and I've never seen a problem, but that's just my limited experience. So,
I would run Chessie in class in panties.
yeah.
Or actually, I'd probably take her panties off, but I would bring her to class in panties and run her while she was in season, and she never had an issue.
Yeah. So it's definitely an interesting one. And then another piece that we saw bubble up online was NAC recently coming
Yeah.
down on requiring verification that mixed breed dogs were
Are
sterilized.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
think the case was that it's always been in the policy when you're registering a mixed breed, whether it's through PAL or the
what's
Canine
the other-
Partners,
Yeah, Canine Partners.
that you could be asked for verification, but they never really
They
enforced
weren't,
it.
yeah, they weren't
and then-
enforcing.
And then, there was a big kind of Facebook post with lots of comments of people talking about how difficult it was for them to find any records or get any delayed verification for rescue dogs. that
Right.
they're-
A lot of these rescue dogs, too, are like
Yeah.
rescued out of state and then they're brought to a different rescue in a different
Mhm.
state. And
And
then the
a lot of them
paperwork,
are sterilized really young.
really
like
young,
puppies.
Very
really
young.
young. And then there's no certificate or documentation. It just
Yeah.
says on the rescue papers, like neutered, but no actual certificate.
But
Because
I
I
think-
know when I got Obi neutered, I got an actual certificate stating he was neutered.
And I
As
think
did I.
the history that we're all missing is that the AKC didn't even allow mixed breed dogs to compete for
Right.
ages. So
For-
that was even like, I'm sure, a huge debate back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
That's
So-
crazy to even think about.
Yeah. It's a matter of like, would they allow mixed breed dogs that are intact compete? And
yeah.
it's a great question because now it's not just that we're talking about rescue dogs, but we're talking about all the sport mixes
mixes,
too. And
right.
again, like, how do people, continue to produce great sport mixes if that's what you're into, if they can't keep them
Yeah.
intact, male or female?
Exactly.
Because then
That's-
we can't really prove them in like AKC and they have to be proven elsewhere.
And I think what a lot of this comes down to too is that for both bitches and season and for sport mixes being intact, people are lying.
Yes.
Right? Like,
That's
A lot of
a lot
people
of people
are
were
lying.
stating that in the
everyone
comments.
says, like, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, bitches in season are at AKC trials.
And I think even researching some of the older posts, we did see that people stated that they have lied and brought their bitches in seasons to competitions and competed them. And who was there proving that they were or not?
Yeah.
You know?
And I
Yeah.
bet that's why for NAC, they were kind of coming down with this
Right.
verification because, I think especially for a bitch, it's pretty impossible to tell if they've been spayed. If
Yeah.
they're a sport mix or a mixed breed dog.
For
And
sure,
Even
yeah.
for male dogs, they can do different types of neutering that's not visible or not, not to the
Yep.
naked eye.
Right.
So,
And if you have a fluffy dog, like an Aussie, you can't even tell.
yeah, exactly.
True. Yeah.
So, it comes down to integrity too and what people were trying to get away with once upon a time. And maybe now some of the rules will loosen, but maybe they'll tighten. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And how this plays out.
How people go moving forward, for sure.
So we picked this name for our podcast because we saw it blow up online and just thought it was kind of a funny pun about like a hot topic, a controversial thing that gets people chatting and people talking. And
so many people going. There's like so many people on both sides of the argument, like with super strong opinions. So the hashtag let these bitches run.
Let the bitches run was the hashtag of the petition. So we'll see more to come on this, maybe developing. I think it's like a trial period to see how it goes with ISC. So hopefully
it's
we're
very
moving
exciting.
in the right direction.
I know a lot of people are very, very excited about this change. So
I think a common theme is that the AKC changes things rather slowly, but at least there's
But there has been, I
about.
will say, since even I've started AKC, there's been so many changes.
Right, getting rid of the table and Excellent and Masters was a big one.
Huge.
And
that
these
was
are all
so
things that people said would never happen. They'll never do that. They'll never do that. So
yeah,
it's positive.
Proof that it can.
And that they're listening maybe a little bit. So
a little bit.
Get your voice out there on Facebook.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Join the comment section.
Maybe.
All
right. So we're going to wrap it up today with a little bit of this or that quick whip around. So our first this or that is going to be retrievers. Rachel, this or that golden retriever or Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever?
Oh, this is so hard for me. I don't know if I really love either one of them.
Okay, well, you don't have to love either one of them, but pick one.
What's your gut telling you?
I think I would go with the golden. It's a solid breed. Everyone loves a golden.
Yeah.
And they're gorgeous, like Showline Goldens, gorgeous, gorgeous dogs. So I'll go with the golden.
I'm going to go with the Toller.
Yeah.
I think that they're like a little bit more petite usually,
maybe
a little bit easier to handle. And I feel like every golden I ever knew was like mad out of their mind until they were 2. And then they turned into a nice dog. And I feel like Tollers don't have that kind of like wild lab golden puppy phase.
Energy.
I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe I've just met nice ones.
Yeah,
And
maybe
I like
you
that they're
have.
just a tiny bit smaller.
They
Usually.
definitely are smaller. Yeah.
I think I would pick a golden because it just, goes with my chaos energy, my chaos vibes.
That's fair.
I think I would do like a show field line mix. So.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would want a Vespa.
A Vespa. We love a
Yeah.
Vespa.
We do.
That's one of our friends' dogs. All right. This or that of tiny, speedy agility dogs, Papillon or Mini Poodle? Lizzie?
I would go Papillon, only because I'm going over looks and I just can't. I don't like mini poodles. I don't like the poodle coat. I just can't. I don't like it. I do not like it.
You like grooming and
I
you
love
don't even want to
grooming.
care
I
for a
don't
poodle coat.
know. I do not want to do it. And I think Papillons are so cute, but I could never have one because my dogs would probably kill it. So
At least break something.
yeah, break
Yeah.
something. Go, Lindsay.
I think I would also pick a Papillon. I feel like both of them are very screechy, but maybe I could deal with the Papillon screech a little bit more. I love
Yeah.
the ears. I love that
Oh, I
Papillon
love the
means
ears.
butterfly. And I don't know, mini poodles, I just have seen them have some behaviors that I'm not a big fan of. No offense to all my poodle lovers out there.
Rachel?
Oh, I'm 100% going Papillon.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know a lot of Papillons, and I love them. I don't know if I'll ever own a Papillon, but if I was going to go smaller than Chessie, I would go 100% Papillon.
Yeah.
They're so cute, so speedy, so much
They are.
speed.
Okay, so if you were a celebrity, what would your pocket purse dog be? This or that Italian Greyhound or Pomeranian?
Italian Greyhound and Iggy. 1,000%.
So you're a Kylie Jenner girl?
yeah. Yes.
Lens.
They look like little cartoon
They're
characters.
so cute.
They're noodles.
I don't know. I'd be stuck. Like, I would definitely want to be like a Lisa Vanderpump or a Paris Hilton
Oh,
and
yeah.
like carry around a little pom pom because I think that's just
I
like
could
a great
totally see you with
accessory.
a little Pomeranian.
But I do love the Iggy's
Love
look
an Iggy.
and they're very sweet. But again, I also would be scared of breaking one of their limbs because they're just so frail.
I know. Rachel?
Pom.
Pom?
Yeah, they're so fluffy.
Oh,
I
you
love
do
the
love the
fluff.
fluff.
I love the fluffs. And I'm a huge Lisa Vanderpump fan, so I'm going to have to go Pom all the way.
You are Lisa Vanderpump.
I
if
know.
we're being honest.
She's an icon. She's
I
everything
love
I
her.
aspire
Bring
to
her
be.
back.
Same.
Bring her back.
What was Jiggy? He always had like the
Yes.
cutest suits.
Oh, all the
Rest
little
in peace,
outfits
Jiggy.
on.
No.
I love him.
We
I
could
miss,
start a
I miss-
Vanderpump Dogs like show and just make it about us.
Yeah.
Wait, I think
Perfect.
they tried to do
I
that,
think they did.
and it just failed.
I think
But
so.
they could bring it to the East Coast. And
Yes,
make
and we'll revive it.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Well, there we go. That's our next business venture. Thanks for tuning in to episode 3. We're excited to bring you another episode in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, follow us on Instagram and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
To podcast.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you
Hope you
guys
keep
listening.
Bye.
Bye.